Okay. Quick little like housekeeping rules. I just want to let you know you're in the right place. If a couple of these different things. Has anyone here felt at any point in their life that their life is good, but maybe not great? Their business is doing well, it's good, but maybe not great, right? We've all heard good is the enemy of great. So if you've ever felt that in your body, then you're definitely in the right place. And you can read. I'm not going to read all this stuff to you, but if you know inside you're meant for more, and there's things that have been on your vision board, and there's things that you've been dreaming about and journaling on and meditating on, and they haven't come to fruition, you're in the right place. And it is February 12th. If you're anything like me, you maybe have fallen off track already on some of your goals for the year, which that's life. So don't beat yourself up. We're going to talk all about this stuff today. If you have at all been feeling overwhelmed or behind, or like you didn't pick your word of 2024 yet, and it's January 12th, first of all, you're okay and you're safe. Secondly, close your eyes. You're not all doing it. Okay, perfect. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it at the top. Breathe in a little bit higher and exhale out through the mouth. We're going to do that 2 more times. Make sure that's an auditory breath out. Breathe in through your nose, all the way up, a little bit more. Hold it. Exhale out through your mouth. And on this third and final breath, when you breathe in, raise your shoulders up to your ears. Scrunch that neck up as high as you can. Pull it up. Get all that tension in your neck. A little bit higher, a little bit higher, a little bit higher. Hold it. And exhale out through your mouth. Drop those shoulders away from your ears. Keep your eyes closed with me. I want you to think for a moment. The quality of life is determined by the quality of the questions that you ask yourself. And when you ask yourself those questions and you lean into what is it that you really do and you really want to build, it's all about having self-awareness. Self-awareness is the key. And something that I talk about all the time is that readiness is an illusion. We only feel ready for something when we've done it before. We can't feel confident if we've never tried it. Action breeds confidence. So I want you to think for a moment of this next level version of yourself, this version of yourself that you're trying so deeply to step into, the things that you want to visualize and manifest into your life, the stuff that you journal about. And as you think about those things, I want you to step into your body. So I don't want you to visualize looking down at yourself. I want you to step into yourself, breathe into it like you're already there, not watching from above, but watching through your eyes. So you're stepping into the inevitable future that just is. And as you look through your eyes, I want you to imagine, where is your life and the business and the relationships and the finances? Where is it in this moment, in your future moment? All the things that you crave and the freedom that you want and the freedom of the mind. See the impact, see the income, see the happiness, see the health. Look around you. This is the most important part. I want you to feel it. Feel it inside of your body. Allow the goosebumps to take over. Feel the emotions of pride, of release, of gratitude. Let those emotions wash over you so deeply that the gratitude turns into tears of overwhelm and joy. I call them gratitears. And while you're standing in your future self, imagine that there's someone who walks by who always looks up to you, someone who wants to be just like you, to have just what you have, to build just what you've built. And they lean in with big eyes looking up at you and they say, but how? How did you do it? What did you do? How did you get there? How did you build that? Take a deep breath in and think for a moment, what would you tell them? Let it out. What would you tell them that you did? What were the things that you had to do, the actions that you had to take, the fears that you had to overcome, the stories that you had to rewrite? Who did you become to create the life that you so deeply desire? Take a deep breath in, hold it at the top, and remember while you're holding it that if it's in you, if you've thought of it, it is meant for you. And on your exhale, put a big smile on your face and go ahead and open your eyes. When we stress out that we're behind, that's a choice. When we compare ourselves to other people, that's a choice. Now, of course we do it. I do too. I'm human. So welcome to the club. There's like 8 billion of us. We're good. We're good. I'm going to leave you with this here. Life is like a video game, and with every board, there's a challenge. Has anyone here played video games? There's a challenge. You have to get to the end of the race. You have to make sure your car doesn't flip over. You have to, shoot the bad guys. You have to watch out for the swinging thing that's going to knock you down. And with every board, the goal is to get through the board. And when you get through the board and you enter the next board, we're presented with the exact same challenge, just with a different mask. There's still a challenge at every single board. Yet when we look at our life and a challenge comes up, or things get hard, or we feel behind, or we compare ourselves, so often we just throw in the towel and quit. But if you ever played video games, that's not what you would do. You would continue to move forward. And what I want you to realize today, in this very moment, is that you write the rules to the game. You get to decide how many lives you live and how many one-ups you get and how many coins you need to eat to get an extra life to do the board again. You decide the challenges that are going to be there. You decide how you're going to approach those challenges. And with those challenges, sometimes we don't see the mistakes that we're doing over and over and over again. So the cool part about having mentors like Craig and myself is that we can help you read a prescription from the outside, because you cannot read a prescription bottle from the inside. And so with that, we have come up with 3 of the most common mistakes that we make when it's coming down to visualizing and goal setting. Want to walk us through our first one?
Let's do it. So guys, in regards to goal setting, I think it's very overlooked, and here's why. Because if I were to ask you guys, and I won't, because I think I know the answer, how many of us are not where we'd hoped we'd been at this point in time? I imagine everybody would raise their hands, because there's always more expansion and more that we can do and so forth. But here's the best part about that. Goals enable you to have everything that you ever wanted faster than you thought possible, the right intentional goals. Why? Because without goals, you simply drift and flow on the current of life. But with a goal, you're like an arrow. You can fly straight, nail your target. So one of the rules of success, and this is something that I had to learn because I have contrast, it doesn't matter where you're coming from or how down you are about where you're not or where you'd hoped you'd been and so forth. It doesn't matter. All that matters in the world for the next hour and change is where you're going. And where you're going is solely determined by yourself and your own thoughts, right? So your thoughts will literally shape and create your world and everything that happens to you. And as you guys know, this just in, playing small is canceled. And so today we want to help you think and play much bigger. But I also want to encourage you, before we dive into all the tangible intention setting and all that stuff, in regards to your soul, guys, your soul is craving expansion. So whatever your goals are, or they were before that we came onto this call, I encourage you to expand them and think even bigger. Because if your soul is not expanding, it's contracting, and it absolutely resents that. It doesn't want to be in a box. It's here to be infinite and create and manifest and all that stuff. So give yourself permission to think and play huge. So big, in fact, that it actually scares you. Now, in regards to intentionality, one of the most common mistakes that I see, guys, especially with a lot of my coaching clients, so forth, when I first begin with them, is that they don't really have their accurate intentions with who and what they want to become, right? So it's one thing to say, I want to make $1 million this year, or I want to be on a lot of great podcasts, or I want to create a relationship, whatever the case may be. But let's break that down. Let's be super intentional. Do you actually have a theme, or have you set the tone for how you want your year to go? Do you have intentionality? Are you thinking about it like a game of chess, always thinking 10 moves ahead and so forth? Do you have a plan? And just to be clear, plans are fluid and they're adaptable. Sometimes we have to pivot and so forth. But every time in my life that I look back, even when I didn't have it all together, and who am I kidding? We still don't, because like Jess said, we're all humans, right? But whenever I had an intention, I was then able to break that down and reverse engineer it and eventually nail it, right? So I want you guys to be super intentional about being intentional. from here on out.
So meta. I
That's
love it.
it's the juicy stuff. You know that.
I love it. Yeah. Well, without intention, that actually leads us right into the second mistake. Without intention, we sort of blindly follow other people's dreams. We blindly follow things that we think we're supposed to do. Let's see who can be honest here. You don't have to if you don't want to. Has anyone ever blindly followed somebody else's goal or dream just because? You can say me in the chat box. For example, especially in business, I'm going to start a podcast. Why? Because everybody has a podcast. I think I need to have a membership. Why? Because she has a membership. I think I want to launch a YouTube page. Why? Well, he has a YouTube page, right? And so we've done this, and this even happens with revenue, with money, with relationships, with children, with certain schools, with certain jobs. And there's this blind following that happens because as humans, it's all about survival of the fittest. That's the way that it works. And so in order to survive, we're constantly looking, our brain subconsciously is constantly looking for the right way, the thing that worked for other people. We're grasping for evidence that it worked. And when we see evidence that it worked, fill it in with whatever you want. When we see the evidence that it worked for somebody else, it's a very dangerous, slippery slope that we get into, but we just start to kind of, with a blindfold on, follow what that other person did without stopping and thinking, number one, do I even want that? Number two, what's the why or the purpose behind that, the intention, if I were to go for that? And number three, is this what I want my life to look like? You know, when I teach people to build businesses, we say it all the time in our company, build your business around your life, not your life around your business. And so when I look at something like a business model or a strategy that some people might do in their business, just because it's working for them or they're making money or they have lots of clients, I don't want to be on coaching calls every single day. I don't want to be launching and selling things every single day. So that model, while it might work for somebody else, it actually doesn't work for me. When I sit down and ask myself the difficult questions, remember, the quality of your questions will determine the quality of your life. So when I sit down and I pause for a moment and I make sure that I take my blindfold off and I sit with, what do I want? What do I want my life to look like? What's my intention? What's the purpose? What's my why? Well, then it opens up a whole new world. And I will not sing, but I'm very tempted to. But it does. It opens up a whole new world of realization for you. So be mindful that you're not blindly following. And we have all done this. I can give you so many examples of this, but don't blindly follow just because. So I'm going to give you a tactical, just real quick thing to do moving forward in your life. When you see someone that has something, I am not going to sing, I'm a terrible singer. When you see someone that has something that you want, they've reached a goal that you desire, they've built the thing that you want to build, they have the money that you want to make, the relationship, instead of asking very simple questions like, well, how many emails am I supposed to send? Or which dating app is the one that I'm going to find my love, my spouse on? Instead of asking those base level questions, I want you to go a layer deeper because the quality of your questions matters. So it's not that I sent 7 emails and that's why it worked. It's, I'm so curious. I noticed you sent 7 emails. Can you explain to me what the reasoning was for that? Was there a reason that each email had like a particular theme? Was it across a certain amount of days? Were they spread out in a strategic way? And most oftentimes when you ask those types of questions, you know, why did you choose Tinder over Hinge? And why did you find that that was the app that worked? Most often, the answer is not mind-blowing. It's usually, it's a mistake. If anything, it's like, oh, that's just what worked. That's just what I did. I only had time to write 7 emails. I actually wanted to write 9. And that's not the magical number either. It's just what I did. So the quality of your questions here to yourself, having the self-awareness of if you are accidentally blindly following someone else's goal or dream, pause. There's so much power in the pause. And the third mistake that a lot of us make, I'm going to let Craig take this one.
Yeah. And I just want to say, guys, first of all, I love that picture. But I just want to piggyback on what Jess was talking about, because I think this is even deeper than some of us think. And for me, before I reinvented myself, guys, just being vulnerable right now, I was following the footsteps of other people's expectations, and I was totally miserable because I was out of alignment. And I wasn't really being authentic to myself, right? And I remember reading specifically in the 1950s, a social psychologist named, I think his name is Leon Festinger or something like that. Don't quote me on that. He developed something called social comparison theory. And the idea behind it was, in essence, that humans look to others in comparison to develop an identity.
Mm.
And guys, let's go a little deeper. This is usually the number one thing that derails us, right? And so human beings are intrinsically wired for connection, but we're comparing ourselves to those around us, and it helps us to form attachments and acceptance. But now fast forward after that, 70 something years later, to social media, and what was once a natural impulse to connect is now a full-blown mental health crisis, guys. And so social comparison is just one example of this. But if we could just put down the phone, step away from the desk, right? If we could just disconnect from it all, the judgment, the looking for the codependency on the people's approval, whatever the case may be, then welcome to right freaking now, right? And I'd love for you guys to write this down, maybe even in the chats, because this really helped me when I decided to reinvent myself, is that it's your race, your pace. And if you don't worry about what anybody else is doing, like Jay said, like maybe podcast isn't your thing or membership's not your thing. What is your thing? What do you feel energetically aligned and connected to? That's going to be the thing that other people are a match to. And it's going to help you make a massive contribution, make a lot of money, and have so much more fun. So I'm inviting you guys and giving you permission to go at your own race and give yourself permission to be less than perfect. My bad, Jess. What were you going to say?
No, I just said I got goosies on that one. Your race, your pace, but also forward is a pace.
Yeah.
I love that. It's on a post-it. I love it.
Size matters. This is a good one. So ironically, or maybe not, I don't know if you guys knew this, but it takes the same amount of energy to visualize and dream big as it does to dream small, right? And get this, here's another juicy nugget. You can't think small and make a massive difference. The bottom line is, guys, number one, you can't make a massive difference thinking small. But if you want to do big epic stuff and collapse time, because we're not going to be here forever, at least in this 1% 3D reality with these astronaut suits on. Obviously, Jess is better looking than mine. But you have to think so much bigger so that you can expand what you believe to be possible for yourself. And it's a muscle. You can develop it, right? So, and I'll give you guys one example and then we'll go to the next slide. When I first started running marathons a few years back, it was a big deal for me because I was never a runner. 5'7" stocky on my best day. And I remember I just wanted to break 4 hours because that was a thing for a civilian. And it like took me a couple of tries to do it, if I'm being honest. And then I broke it. And then I'm like, why was I just trying to break 4 hours? Why don't we just break 3:30? And then I ran a 3:27. I didn't get magically more athletic between two races, right? I just started thinking a little bit bigger. And as a result, not only my thoughts, but my behaviors and actions started to expand as well. So I can't stress enough, guys, size does matter.
I think with size, the other thing is, and please let me know in the chat box if you've done this, when our goals are too small, we don't stay motivated. We like lose the momentum because we're not that excited about them. Or not only if they're too small, but if they're so attainable. For example, if my goal is to make a cup of coffee this morning, which is something that I do every single morning, that's not really a stretch goal. That's more of a just like, I know I'm going to do it. It doesn't put me at all in discomfort. And so I might not be as motivated or I might not be as proud afterwards. So when your goal isn't big enough, you might actually be lacking the motivation to do it. And so then you fall off track. You keep it up for a couple of days and then you slip back. And it's not because you don't have the discipline within you. It's not because you're not capable of the end result. But when it's not exciting, it doesn't get you popping out of bed in the morning and like moving all the puzzle pieces around in your brain for how you're going to make it work. The carrot isn't big enough for you to be chasing after it, or the cookie or whatever it would be. I'm not sure if most people are chasing after carrots on treadmills, right? But this idea that your goal size matters. We also, our brains work like sharks. So it's been said, if you Google it, sharks grow to the size of the tank that they're in. So when you put them in a bigger tank, they'll grow much bigger. If you keep them in a small tank, they'll stay 1 foot or 2 feet. But when you let them go into the ocean, they might grow 3, 4, 5, 7 feet. And it's the same thing for us. And that's the whole idea about getting into rooms that expand you. And I'm not talking about investing a ton of money to get into a room, but it's like, what are the books that you're reading? What are the podcasts that you're listening to? What's the content that you're mindlessly consuming as you scroll? What are the TV shows that you're watching? We forget how much control we actually do have around what we see. We get very disappointed and very mad and very frustrated at the algorithm. And it's so easy to blame the algorithm for all the bad things that we see, or the negativity, or just the stuff we don't want to see. But you forget the way that the algorithms actually work is that it will give you more of what you are active with. So the more things that you like and comment and spend time on, it's just going to push more of that to you. So you actually have control around what you see. Same thing with TV and the news and the shows that you're watching and the books that you're reading. So it's really important to set yourself around people that expand what is possible. The hardest part when it comes to goal setting and manifesting and visualizing is that if we haven't done it yet, if we haven't created it yet, if it isn't true in our life yet, then we feel like, well, is it even possible? And so sometimes we go down the road of like, what's the point? I've never made $1 million before. What's the point? It's never going to happen. I've always been single. I'm never going to find the person. So what I want you to do starting today is that if you don't have the evidence in your life that it is possible, I want you to borrow the evidence from somebody else that it's possible. So find someone on social media or a book or a podcast that you do follow, that you watch, that you consume, who has done the thing, built the thing, has the thing that you want. And borrow the evidence that if he can or she can, then so can you. And when you are writing those things down, Craig already kind of talked to you about this, but setting the tone of writing that goal down. And this is my favorite thing that he did with his community. He had everybody at the beginning of the year write those goals down. What do you want to manifest? What do you want to bring to life? What do you want to create this year? And then he had everybody rip it up. And when he was telling me this, I'm like, oh, what? Why'd you have them rip it up? And then the third part was he had them rewrite it. And he said, rewrite it bigger, because you're going to grow to the tank that you put yourself in. Rewrite it bigger, think bigger. I would so rather get 80% towards my goal than 100% every day making a cup of coffee. Like, I already know I can do that. But imagine I went a little bit further. It's like that quote, I don't know, shoot for the stars, reach for the moon for the, whatever it is, right? And it's like, it's that concept of like, but if you go a little bit further, full transparency, the team and I, we have not hit a revenue goal in the last 3-4 years. We have not hit one of our launch goals, I don't think ever. That's the point. They should be so out of reach, so out of touch, almost unbelievable that we're not necessarily hitting them, but we're getting so close to them, closer than we ever would have. And the one thing I want to say before we jump into the next part is this: we are all in different seasons and chapters in our lives. So if you're listening to this right now and you're like, oh my gosh, I have so much going on. I'm moving right now. I'm going through a divorce. I'm pregnant. I had a baby yesterday. You might not be in a season of like, I'm going to make that tank huge and I need to make the biggest goals. You might be in more of a season of like, I just want to maintain. I just need to get through this season. I have not had children yet, but I've heard it's tough at the beginning, right? Like, I just need to get through this. This is not a season for me to thrive. This is just a season for me to survive. Be okay with that. Because again, if you're comparing yourself to other people, even on this workshop, you're falling into that trap and you've let your blindfold come off in a bad way, right? In a way that could tear you down with that comparison. So be okay with where you're at, meet yourself where you're at, and know that just like in nature, in your life, in your relationships, in your business, in your revenue, your finances, there are going to be seasons. There has to be. That is the law. It is a law that there is the nature of the seasons, that there is the duality of the dark and the light, of the up and the down. That's just how it works. So it's okay for wherever you're at, because we're talking really big here. And I don't want anyone feeling like, but this is just not the season for me. It's okay, but take this information with you and use it in your future, in your life, in your everyday. Cool? Thank you so much for tuning in. If you loved this episode, I invite you to be a part of our ripple effect and share it with a friend. And please, if you feel called, take 30 seconds to leave a 5-star review, and I'll be forever grateful. Until next time, cheers to your evolution.